adjudicated by a single district court
Okay,
judge.
I'm just trying to figure out at what point in the system do you, because what does the Trump administration believe? Because we do have separation of powers in this country. I hear what you're saying.
Yes,
you're saying
separation
the district
of powers.
court does
this
not
is the judiciary
have authority.
interfering
Stephen,
in
let me finish.
the executive function. That is the separation of powers. That is the separation of powers.
Did you ignore the judge's order here because you thought you could?
So the judge's order and the actions taken by the Departments of Defense, Justice, and Homeland Security are not in conflict. And the Department of Justice has been clear that they are not in conflict. But
so you think that you did go along with the order that the judge put out? You do not think that the Trump administration defied this order?
Después de un día lleno de violaciones a la ley, de comportamientos totalmente indefendibles, creo que era de esperarse que los secuaces de Donald Trump salieran a justificar lo injustificable. Eso es exactamente lo que ocurrió. Pero lo peor es que lo vimos de la mano de uno de los más repugnantes de todos, Stephen Miller. En una entrevista, intentó defender lo indefendible, pero en lugar de lograrlo, más bien terminó completamente desmoronado, gritando sin control y atacando personalmente a la presentadora. Sean bienvenidos a Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Amigos, hoy veremos una vez más al títere de Trump, perdiendo el control luego de ser acorralado. Así que los invito a que se queden hasta el final de este video porque veremos los detalles más interesantes. Bueno amigos, vamos a ver lo que Stephen Miller tuvo que decir con su colección de mentiras. Vamos a desmontarlas una a una y por supuesto ofrecer un punto de vista alternativo. Así que veamos este clip.
So you called the judge's order just earlier today, quote, patently unlawful, end quote, and said that it was an assault on democracy itself. Does that mean that the administration is ignoring this order, and might you ignore future court orders that meet the criteria you laid out?
The President of the United States and his administration reserve all rights under the Constitution to conduct national security operations in defense of the United States. The Alien Enemies Act, which was passed into law by the founding generation of this country, men like John Adams, was written explicitly to give the President the authority to repel an alien invasion of the United States. That is not something that a district court judge has any authority whatsoever to interfere with, to enjoin, to restrict, or to restrain any way. You can read the law yourself. There's not one clause in that law that makes it subject to judicial review, let alone district court review.
So Stephen, when you say that this person has no authority at all, this is how our system works. It starts with these judges and then continues up. At what point does it become, in your view, legal for the justice system to be looking at this and making a judgment? And I fail to see how there's any other way but to start with where we're starting here before you get to eventually the Supreme Court.
Well, so first of all, there's a term in law, justiciable. This is not justiciable. In other words, this is not subject to judicial remedy. When the president is exercising his Article 2 powers to defend the country against an invasion or to repel a foreign terrorist that is unlawfully in the country, he's exercising his core Article 2 powers as commander-in-chief.
Is Venezuela invading the U.S.?
This is a very important point. This is a Title 50 authority. It's a commander-in-chief authority. So just to ask you a simple question, you talk about how the system works. Does a district court judge have the right to direct or enjoin troop movements overseas? Yes or no?
Well, Stephen, my question, if you could answer my question first,
in other words,
is Venezuela invading our country in a way that would apply this way?
So I'll answer yours and you'll answer mine. Under the terms of the statute, Tren de Aragua is an alien enemy force that has come here as detailed at length in the proclamation at the direction of the Venezuelan government. The statute says that a president has the ability to repel an invasion or predatory incursion that is directed by a foreign
state
government.
or a government, right? Are they a state or a government?
This would be, yes, it is documented that TDA was sent by the Venezuelan government in the proclamation. And here's an even more important point. Under the Constitution, who makes that determination? A district court judge elected by no one or the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy? The president and the president
So do you
alone
then-
makes a
do you
decision
then
of
think-
what triggers that
So
determination
do you then
in the
think we
statute.
are actually at war with Venezuela, the nation state of Venezuela?
You're not hearing me and you're not understanding me. Read the statute. Alien Enemies Act, 1798. It says if a predatory incursion is perpetrated by a foreign government, so it lists three qualifying actions. It could be an act
it does
of war.
say in the
it could
very
be-
beginning
it can-
there has to be a declared war against a nation or a
No,
state. That's what it says.
No, wrong. Look up the statute. It's on my account on social
That's
media.
actually where
Everyone
we
can
found
go
it
see
earlier.
Yes, it says or a predatory incursion or an invasion. The statute delineates three criteria for triggering the Alien Enemies Act. One is an act of war, which, by the way, an invasion is an act of war, but put that aside. One is an invasion, which this is. One is a predatory incursion, which this is. So it actually meets all three statutory criteria. But with respect to this particular statute, the proclamation is utilizing the incursion and invasion language in the statute.
So,
but this is a
big
very
picture,
important question
Stephen.
because no, hold on. It's a very important question. You said the way our system works is the President of the United States commands the armed forces of the country, commands the foreign policy of the country, and that's subject to district court review. That is fundamentally untrue.
I never said that, Stephen. I did not say.
That has never been true.
This was not a military operation. I mean,
a district court judge can no more enjoin the expulsion of foreign terrorists to foreign soil that he can direct the movement of Air Force One, that he can direct the movement of an aircraft carrier, that he can direct Marco Rubio to engage in diplomacy in a country or not.
Do you think the Supreme Court has any say over
to.
this or not? Like, does the Supreme Court of the United States have any say over the things that you were just outlining right here?
I believe what the Supreme Court will say is what I just said, which is that the president's conduct here is not subject to judicial
review.
review.
Okay, but you are acknowledging that they do, in fact, have a say here, even though you think they may agree with you.
What we are expecting is the Supreme Court to say what has always been the case, which is when the president is using his powers as commander-in-chief, those determinations are not subject to judicial review. In other words, the president's designation of Nicaragua as a foreign terrorist organization and as an alien enemy are part of his inherent plenary authority. There is no way.
At what point in the system, Stephen,
how are you
do
going
the
to
courts
expel?
gain
Hold
power?
on. How are you going to expel illegal alien invaders from our country who are raping little girls, who are murdering little girls, if each and every deportation has to be adjudicated in a district court judge? That means you have no country, it means you have no sovereignty, it means you have no future. It is fundamentally incompatible to have a country and have individual expulsions adjudicated by a single district court judge.
I'm just trying to figure out at what point in the system do you, because what does the Trump administration believe? Because we do have separation of powers in this country. I hear what you're saying.
Yes,
you're saying the
separation of
district
powers.
court does
This
not
is the judiciary
have authority.
interfering
Stephen,
in
let me finish.
the executive function.
Let me
That
finish.
is the separation of powers. That is the
Did
separation
you
of
ignore
powers.
the judge's order here because you thought you could?
So the judge's order and the actions taken by the Departments of Defense, Justice, and Homeland Security are not in conflict. And the Department of Justice has been clear that they are not in conflict. But
so you think that you did go along with the order that the judge put out? You do not think that the Trump administration defied this order?
As the Justice Department said, there is no conflict between the judge's order and the actions taken by the departments I just listed. But I'm making a deeper and more fundamental point.
Yeah.
The district
so,
court
yeah, I mean, if you
has
don't have
no
to follow it,
ability.
why didn't you?
The district court has no ability to in any way restrain the president's authorities under the Alien Enemies Act or his ability to conduct the foreign affairs of the United States. Let me paint a picture for you. President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio had engaged in intensive diplomacy to obtain a bilateral security agreement with the nation of El Salvador. If a district court judge can enjoin that bilateral security agreement, then we do not have a democracy.
Stephen, you've made your argument.
We do not have a foreign policy.
We've heard you say this. Did you ignore, did the administration ignore the order from the district judge? It's a simple question.
I've answered.
Bueno, pues algo que no suele pasar en CNN es que los presentadores realmente confronten a los invitados republicanos con hechos. Pero bueno, en este caso, la periodista hizo un buen trabajo empujando a Miller contra la pared. Sin embargo, para poder entender el contexto completo, es necesario analizar un poco el propósito real detrás de esta retórica. Donald Trump quiere que sus acciones extremas parezcan medidas necesarias para la seguridad nacional, cuando sabemos que en realidad solo busca consolidar más poder en sus manos. Donald Trump no quiere desafiar a los tribunales porque realmente crea que está protegiendo a los ciudadanos. O sea, si de verdad a él le importara la seguridad, no estaría defendiendo a los 1.500 insurrectos violentos que atacaron a la policía el 6 de enero y que siguen cometiendo crímenes. Donald Trump quiere que el debate se enfoque en la seguridad y no en su abuso de poder. Por eso vemos a su equipo repitiendo que los demócratas están soltando criminales peligrosos y que Trump es el único que puede detenerlos. La realidad es otra. Lo que Trump pretende es algo que ya se intentó antes: ignorar las órdenes judiciales, proceder a deportaciones masivas sin juicio, sin el debido proceso, basándose solo en perfiles raciales. Esto no es solo un ataque contra inmigrantes venezolanos o cualquier otro tipo de grupo, es un intento de expandir su poder hasta el punto de poder detener y expulsar a cualquier persona en el país que él considera un enemigo. Hoy pueden ser los inmigrantes, mañana puede ser cualquiera. Como siempre pasa con Donald Trump, cuando crees que solo está atacando a un grupo en particular, la realidad es que está preparando el terreno para ir por mucho más. No es solo contra la prensa que lo critica, sino contra la libertad de prensa en general. No es solo contra sus enemigos políticos individuales, sino contra cualquier persona que se oponga a él. No es solo para llenarse los bolsillos, sino para beneficiar a todos los multimillonarios a costa de la gente común. Con Donald Trump siempre hay un siguiente paso. Es por eso que se tiene que estar alerta y denunciarlo. Alguien que hizo un gran trabajo explicando todo esto fue Jessica Charloff, quien lo expuso claramente en esta intervención.
Funny you should mention that. No, there is good reason that everybody is saying alleged members and suspected members, because these people, as Dana said, have not gotten their due process. And there's an immigration attorney who has been posting about her client who was supposed to show up in court on Thursday, has been disappeared since then, is allegedly on this plane, and this person
what was he supposed to show up in court for?
What, he had a legitimate asylum claim. He had tattoos.
Legitimate asylum. It's not legitimate until a judge says it's legitimate.
But if you make it so that that person can't see a judge, then you're denying them their due process.
I don't know if I buy
What Trump is essentially saying is that the asylum system, as we know it, is done. That you can show up here and you're fleeing from persecution in Venezuela, for instance, and you don't get your day in court. So if that's what it is moving forward, then just say that. Be honest.
But you know the asylum system has been gamed.
Sure,
it is completely exploited by criminals.
Most don't even show up, and most don't get approval.
You can throw whatever you want at the wall. I'm still going to finish what I'm saying.
That's just facts.
No, but it isn't facts.
We should build a wall.
They're illegal. They don't belong here in the first place if they weren't invited.
Then just be honest and say it's not about getting criminals out. It's about getting everyone out who is here illegally. That we can pick up anyone. And that's not Whoopi Goldberg or Joy Behar. Obviously, they're not getting
deported. You do the worst first. That's what we're doing.
But why is this person?
See, one person.
No, but this is the first.
Vivimos en tiempos realmente preocupantes. Tenemos que enfrentarlos con firmeza, ¿no? Lo que me preocupa es que muchos demócratas podrían pensar que es una discusión impopular. De este modo terminan evitándolo. Creerán que este debate gira, qué sé yo, únicamente en torno a la inmigración, cuando en realidad es mucho más grande que eso. Más bien que el plan migratorio de Trump está fracasando, pero este no es solo un tema de inmigración, ¿no? Al igual que la detención ilegal de Mahmoud Khalil, no fue solo por protestas en Colombia, sino por la represión de la libertad de expresión, el uso del poder para intimidar a cualquier otro opositor. Pueden quedarse con mi opinión o cualquiera que ustedes busquen sobre este tema, pero lo que Trump está haciendo es una violación clara y directa de la ley. Esto es tan solo un ataque generalizado, directamente al sistema judicial, con un solo objetivo: acaparar todo el poder posible en sus manos. Muchísimas gracias por quedarse hasta el final de este video. Como siempre, si me quieren apoyar, regálame un like, comparte el video con tus amigos y suscríbete a nuestro canal Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.